हाम्रो चाहिँ एलएन सर हुनुहुन्छ कन्टेन्ट डाइरेक्टर अफ माइक्रोसफ्ट सो एलएन सर
Okay, so let me take over. I'll be spending about an hour to talk about basically strategic alliances, and I'm really happy as a हामीसँग ICT in agriculture को पनि एउटा case study कै रूपमा अहिले भर्खर मैले डिस्कस गरिरहेको थिएँ. I will speak in English in case any of our international participants also join in so that they can also understand. I think as we move forward, we might need another chair. Jamuna, we need another chair. So please bear us for a minute. We have a guest coming in, so we're trying to get a chair for him. I know, so the room is getting full.
What we can do is we can just quickly introduce ourselves. So let's start with Tamil.
Hello guys, I'm Simpson Solari. I'm the co-founder of ICT for Agriculture.
Hello everyone, I'm Dinesh Adhikari, founder Info Software Intelligence Solutions. Basically a startup consulting company that wants to help small and medium businesses scale.
Hello everyone, I am Vishwajit Krishna from AgroConsult. Our startup is basically focused on bringing innovation in agriculture.
Hello everyone, I am Ishwar Bhalla. I am co-founder and service director of City for
So Kiranji, can we have a brief introduction of the team company?
Yeah. Hello everyone, this is me Kiran Bhamana, Framework Solution.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so let me take over, Aina. So I think as our startup progresses forward, and once we have we have incorporated, and I think what's going to be very important is how do we build up our alliances, our strategic alliances. Sabanda paila ta we'll start looking for customers, and once we have our customers and once we start growing the customer base, many times we need to get into partnerships, and those partnerships are critical for us to grow the organization. The partnerships are different shapes, different sizes, different many times I think as startups we want to partner with as large an organization as possible, if possible with multinationals, if possible with Microsoft, if possible with Google, if possible with the largest companies as possible. I'm going to take also as a case study our discussion for our discussion today. ICT in education has a proposal. ICT for education has ICT for agriculture. Sorry about that. ICT for agriculture has a strategic partnership that they are considering with Encel, and I've asked Sibzandiko permission to be able to discuss this, to see what feedback that we can get, to see how we structure this partnership. And I think it's very critical for our success to be able to not only look for customers, but also try to build these alliances, build these partnerships, build these within the work that I do at the Microsoft Innovation Center with the technology that we have. I truly believe in partnerships, and I work with the UN organizations, I work with governments, the US government, I work with different, and we are not a vendor for them. And so I build partnerships, the strategic alliances that's required. So I think it's very critical. Otherwise, we'd just be another vendor, and they would give us the money to deliver. Today, we are at the same level as US Embassy, same level as UNDP, same level as, and we build those strategic alliances. And I'm happy that Naina asked me to come and speak about my experiences on building these strategic alliances, and I think it's critically as co-founders or as looking at how to build your company. I think it's very important for you to start thinking, saying, what are the different ingredients that's required for strategic partnerships. I'll be basically talking about how do you define strategic alliances, strategic partnerships. How do you get the information required? Let's suppose if I'm going to talk with Encel, what is the information that I need from Encel? And so that I kind of tune in saying, what are they looking for? Is Encel looking for profit? Maybe not. So is Encel looking for content, agriculture content? Is Encel looking for another market that they've not been able to reach out to? Is it the youth market? Is it the rural market that they want to tap into? I know. So for Encel, why would they need a startup, ICT for agriculture, to be in partnership? What are they that you have that they're looking for? And that's the information that you want to get, so that your negotiation, you can really increase your value. Otherwise, it's very clear that ICT for agriculture is in no size or shape to Encel. I know, it's two different sizes. But how do you become on the same table and negotiate so that you are of that size? At least in that negotiation. Other areas, they might be bigger, but at least in that area, so you've got to understand what are they looking for. So what is it that I have that Encel values, and that I can, and I think that's very important to be able to understand. And I think every startup, we don't understand, every company, we don't understand the value that we have. I know, and it's very important for us to increase that value that we have, so that the negotiation goes very well. And I think that's for us to be able to start that alliance, for us to be able to understand, how do I get that information out of the company that I'm trying to work with? What is it that I can offer to them that they see value in me? We'll talk about few examples. I'm really glad that we have a live example with the strategic partnership, strategic alliance with Encel, and to see how this is going to be. And then we'll kind of discuss that as a case study. So instead of taking Lufthansa ko case study that I was thinking of, instead of taking IBM ko case study that I was thinking of, if I can take Encel ko case study, that's even going to be more meaningful, because that's something that we can relate to right in our hometown, rather than taking something from outside of the country. And what are the factors that would affect the partnerships? Types of different alliances that we can do. Is it going to be a buy-sell? Are there going to be a venture capital where you have to invest into? Is it going to be a joint venture? Is it going to be, what form of alliances can I get into? And the risks and the costs of strategic alliances. So when I'm going into the jungle with elephants, there are risks. I might get, these big elephants might walk on top of me and kill me. Right? So if I'm going into the jungle with ants, I might kill that ant. Right? So, and if possible, I would rather like to go into the jungle not with an ant but with an elephant. The bigger the animal, the more partnership makes sense. And you'd normally want to partner with the largest global organizations that's possible. How do you balance your cooperation with Encel, and you're also competing with Encel now? So how do I compete with Encel and yet cooperate with Encel? Many years ago, when I was the General Secretary of the Computer Association, I used to talk about a phrase that I coined, and I called it co-competition. Because all of the companies that were working on the same areas, we had to cooperate as well as compete. So, and I think you also need to, with your strategic alliances, you also need to think about, how do I cooperate with, in this case study, Encel, but at the same time I have to compete with Encel. And do I make sure that I sign up with a contract in a way that I can now sign up with Nepal Telecom if I'm able to? And can I also offer this to Jio Mobile in India? And if that strategic of Nepal but grow, like what's your next 2-year, 3-year plan? And can I grow it to a bigger thing, so that that's not a limiting, and this your future, there's no more future for you. How do I grow it so that from Encel in 2-3 years you can make it so big that you can take it into other countries and other networks and other bigger players, bigger than Encel is? I'm sure there are other players bigger than Encel in that space as well. One organization, company that comes to mind is Jio. And so how do you take your content and that alliance, so that if you're bound by the contract that you cannot take it to any other company, then that's the end of the road for you. So right before you start your alliance, you've got to also find out, saying, what is the competition that you have? What are the alliances and the ethics? And that's basically what I'll be covering in the next one hour. At any point, you can stop me. I want to make it conversational, and I want to make it as So instead of just making a one way, I think at any point we can discuss things and all of that. If I had to define and put a definition into what a strategic alliance or a strategic partnership is, I know many times companies don't like the word partnership. Right? So alliance is very easy because a partnership could mean that, especially in Asian countries, it means that it's actually investments. My partnership means we are a partnership company. Right? So it has a different meaning and a different annotation to the word partnership. So for this presentation, I chose deliberately the word alliance, even though in my lips it comes more to say it's more partnership. I know it's a choice of words. And so especially for Nepal, I think if you talk about partnerships, you always think about, I'm also putting an investment into the equity of the company. So that's not what I'm meaning. And this is purely an alliance, so that we are partnering together to get into some of the. So strategic alliances are cooperative relationships between two or more independent companies, organizations, designed to achieve mutually beneficial goals for as long as economically viable. And it's got to be win-win. It's not a buyer-seller arrangement. It's an alliance. So it's not something that Ncell is going to buy and then you sell to Ncell. So it's more of an alliance. Maybe this alliance will not be successful. So we've got to look at saying, what are the risks involved and all of that. They carry uncertainties that are not manageable in contractual arrangement. And if it is normally a contract, because let's suppose ICT for Agri has that Ncell values, and Ncell doesn't have the content. They've got the network, they've got the reach out to be able to take it to a site. So we have Ncell at one end that's got the network, literally maybe 1 crore users who might value this content. And so this what they call value-added services, VAS services. Right? So Ncell needs value-added services on top of telephones, on top of data. So data ke ko lai chalaune ta, telephone, voice ke ko lai chalaune, they need some content to deliver to the end. That I think in certain countries, the money that out of voice is going down. Geo, for example, does not traditionally the money that telecom is. So everyone in the world, all of the large telecom operators are getting upgraded. Is diminishing, it's going, it's ending. So where they think they're going to be extinct, they're going to be dinosaurs in the day. So when that is happening, what gaps that we have. So Ncell might have a very your negative, you don't know because they're such a large organization. People speak well, but you don't know what's in their mind. And to find that normally in these large organizations becomes extremely difficult, extremely challenging. And I think that's kind of the find phase one. It's important for you to say that who do I have as a friend inside that organization who will look after me or take care of me. And then you've got to decide who's that deciding person. It might not be the CEO. You might not have access to the CEO. But you need to find out who decides and who is the right person that you need to be talking to. And I think that's what your analysis phase. I think it's also critically important to be able to say that what my objective is. So why am I signing up this alliance? Is it revenue? Is it my goodwill increases? Now, as soon as I can put my alliance, my partnership with Ncell and make this news and create such a lot of noise that my value increases and other customers will start paying for my services. So what is it? Or is it directly as soon as I sign up, my revenue starts increasing? And so I think you've got to understand, say, so what is my final objective? If it is revenue, you've got to say, this is the revenue that I want. So with my Ncell partnership, I want to make sure that I get X dollar value, X rupee value, revenue. And you've got to work towards that. If it is revenue. If it is not revenue, then you might say, all right, my branding. I will increase my branding so much that I'll benefit from the branding. And if it is not that. I have an empty chair. Suchi was here. So,
Cheers.
you've also got to understand what are the legal ramifications, if any. Quite a few organizations do not allow, some laws do not allow, especially Microsoft when they try to buy Skype or other large organizations, LinkedIn and all of that, there's always your Monopoly Act that comes in. So US law does not allow one company to be so large that they have monopoly in the market. They have to have competition. So Google and Microsoft cannot be one company. A Monopoly Act will prohibit. And so they will not allow the same two companies to form one company to kill out all of the other competition. And so there's a Monopoly Act that stops it. So maybe you've got to understand what legal ramifications of the partnering is. And because you're creating such a large network that you, and then many times I think you also need to learn saying what is the specific industry information. How big is Ncell? How big is the telecom market? How big is the agriculture information market? What other models exist in the rest of the world? And what are the trends and things like that? And as after I think the initial phase, you start structuring I believe ICT for Agri is in this phase where they are now in the design phase. We're now trying to design our partnership with Ncell to be able to say, what does our strategic alliance look like? And so I'm designing that alliance. There's already a proposal onto the table that I have to decide whether I accept that or I look for amendments onto that. And so from the fine phase, we are already onto the phase where we are saying, yes, let's discuss. And then let's design our partnership. Dubai Tirabata, yes, I goes. And that's a healthy situation to be in. Please remember, at any point it can break down. And many of these times, last minute it breaks down. You put in months of effort and then the alliance breaks down at the last minute. And there'll be some clause that they'll say, you have to stick with these clauses, otherwise we don't happen. And it's just that you cannot sign this clause. And so, and then the negotiation, I think it's got to be win-win for both. And you've got to understand that. The negotiation skills are important. You've got to also understand the partners whose skills are look at these. Some partners are extremely hard skilled with negotiations. And then some are sometimes very cunning in terms of they give you a raw deal. It looks like a sweet deal, but at the end, you should not have signed that agreement. It's like killing your company. They want to throw you out of the business, so they get you onto alliance and they close it down. And so you've got to understand saying, is this a win-win or not? It looks like a Trojan horse and a really good gift. It looks like a big horse and all of that, but rather all of the other things come out of that, and it's not really a gift. It was more of a death warrant. And so you've got to understand. Making staffing decisions using the best personnel for long-term commitments to the alliance. How much of commitments do you have to put in? How much of manpower do you need to put into this new commitments that you're getting into the alliance? So I think that's where you're designing your relationship between the two organizations. And finally, I think you've signed and then you now want to manage and take it forward. And so what are the relational components of the alliance, including trust, collaboration, learning, and going into the next level? How do you develop an effective working environment? Please remember, after the signing, that's where it begins. The signing does not end. So after the alliance is signed, that's where the management phase starts. And many times that's where it breaks down. The culture of the two organizations doesn't work. For smaller organizations, you are there making instant decisions. For larger organizations, they have to do a whole lot of decision-making process into there. And the two cultures, if it doesn't work, you've got to understand and have the patience and things like that. Develop an effective working environment, develop an effective communication environment, manage relationships that maintain trust and respect, mutual respect. And many times if they feel that this organization is so small and they're earning less than, the whole company is earning less than the salary that I make as a person and things like that, it breaks down. And many times the smaller organization has a lot of value to also show and give to the larger organization. Maybe you have that intellectual property that they cannot have. And you've got that one small thing that they value a lot. And so it's not having a large organization that matters, maybe that value that you have it, and you've got to be able to showcase that value and to build that trust and respect between the two organizations. You need to evaluate the performance and implement a feedback mechanism so that you improve on your agreement, onto your alliance, and then take it forward from there. And constantly loop, fail fast if it doesn't work, but then succeed faster. And if something doesn't work, don't get stuck onto it, saying how do we improve and go better. And disseminate the lessons learned. So we learned that this doesn't work. And we learned that even if we agree on meetings and all of that, your organization culture does not mean that we actually have an agreement. You need to get approvals, Lisa. We just agreed to agree, but it is not an agreement to implement it. And so again, you need to have that. So for small startups, once we say yes, that means a yes. For large organizations, once they say yes, that means I'll take it to my management. The yes comes later. So that is just saying that I'll go back and talk to my management. And those two cultures, we need to come to understand saying how do we work together. And many times I think these could be cross-border cultures and all of that. If you're talking to a Japanese, he'll never say yes. And then he'll just give you a smile, and so you've got to be able to understand. If a Japanese says yes, that means for 2 generations I'll support you, no matter how many mistakes that you make. For an American, they immediately yes, and immediately divorce. And they'll also, for a Japanese, that divorce will not come immediately. For an American, I think the cultures, we also need to understand the cultures of the organization, the cultures of the people as well. And for a lot of East European countries, it's very easy for them to say no. It's very easy for them to say, I don't like you. For a Nepali, we don't say that at all. We'll never say against the person. And so again, and then it's perfectly okay for them to work together on an alliance and still say, I don't like you. And the East Europeans can do that. And for us, if you say, I don't like you, that means, and we don't even talk to each other. Our whole relationship is ended. And for East Europeans, it's perfectly okay. I don't like you, but I have to work with you. And I respect you. I still don't like you. And I have to Nepali culture, if I don't like you, I don't work with you. Finished. We don't even talk to each other. And so, but they're perfectly okay. So I think we've got to also understand then how do we run these different cultures. IBM's Global Alliance, earlier, I mean this is like early 70s, early 80s, the Japanese companies were really coming fast. And then all of the Taiwanese companies were coming fast and all of that. So they came up with an alliance between SAP, between Oracle, between Intel, between HP, between Sun Microsystems. That's when they became Big Blue. And that's when they ended. So IBM is no more. It's become Lenovo. But at the same time, I mean, in the early 1990s, they built all of this initiative so that they even had a alliance, a partnership with their biggest competitor, HP. And that's when they became Big Blue. They were the biggest, largest organization. And that's when I think the PCs started coming and all of the server business went away. And I think this is another very large alliance that really worked, was the airline industry. So my airline works in these 5 countries. There's another airline that works in Europe. Then there's United Airlines that works in US. But how do I make sure that I have one code share? And then how do I make sure that I have one mileage? And how do I make sure that I become a global network? And I think Star Alliance with Lufthansa, with Thai Airlines, with Jet Airways in India and all of the Indian subcontinent, and then so they became United Air in the US, they became one of the largest, literally, airline company. So each of the airlines are competing, at the same time cooperating to make sure that everyone grows. And people only chose, at least at one time, I was only choosing airlines that were part of Star Alliance. So that I can get the mileage, I can get an annual holiday for my family. And similarly, OneWorld with Singapore Air and that alliance. So two competing alliances. And each of these airline companies were the biggest competitors. United Air, Lufthansa, Thai, Air Canada, Air New Zealand, Mexicana in South America. They're biggest competitors at one time. But these competitors came together, cooperated to create a code sharing, joint marketing, 15 partners in 2002, and now it's even growing. So I think it works. What are the factors that promote alliances? I think one could be entering a new market. One could be looking at how do the industry is changing. How do as the industry and the trends change and all of that, how do I make sure that we add value to it? And I think for the tech sector, this is most of the times how things really shape up fast. The other could be, how do I apply new technology? And how do I apply this so that we grow? And maybe one organization has such a new intellectual property, IP, that helps add on to the value. That IP, if with a startup, might not be as valuable as if it was with a larger organization that can really take it to the next level. And I think that's how we promote and many times I want to make my product line complete. I want to round off my product line, and for that I think I need strategic alliances and add more value to that. I could come up with 3 broad types of strategic alliances. One is primarily a licensing arrangement. So I have ICT for agriculture that has certain of the content. I want to license it out so that I provide it through my network. So purely give me your content I repackage it, we add a third party that gives me weather reports, and we package it for my and then the delivery channel could be traditional SMS, because my market is non-smartphones, and they'll be able to access it in a conventional, older telephone system. It could be joint ventures, where both puts in investments, and this creates a third organization to make it much bigger. Or it could be a consortia or a network, very similar to how the airline industry made it work. And so it could be any of these three. The third one could be extremely complex among these groups of different size of organizations and all of that. And joint ventures could be also difficult, because it's actually creating a third alliance, third whole different organization or company. Licensing arrangement, well, I think that's where our case study for ICT for Agri and NCEL today is. I think it's the primary reason for having this licensing arrangement for this case study is a need to help in commercializing a whole new product, a whole new technology. And the technology is how can technology help with agriculture? And the product is information. And it's not another tractor, it's not another seed, it's not another hybrid plant or fruit. And it's purely information, and it can provide information about everything about this, whether that's about weather, whether that's about insurance or financial, whatever. And I think you would know better in terms of what you can deliver. But I think your reason for coming into a licensing arrangement, into a strategic partnership, is because you want to commercialize a whole new product, a whole new technology. So the technology, that whole IP, is providing weather reports and information through SMS, and NCEL is just a channel. And they're not going to be experts on agri. And so they're taking a smaller group who is experts in agri and saying, I'm packaging it so that I can take it out to my crore users, crore plus users, and to be able to provide that. And this Madhema, what percentage of that would be agriculture farmers who can benefit from my system? The second reason for the licensing arrangement would be expanding of the brand, franchise, or marketing image into the world. And I think that's where Archa, that's where Juno is looking at, is saying, how do we take unlimited cloud and reach it out to other parts of the world? They're expanding their services to 18 countries. And that's where alliances come in. Because we don't understand how Vietnam works, how Cambodia works, how Laos works, so different religions, different cultures, different taxation rules, and we need a local partner to help us to reach out into these markets. And I think that's the second reason for entry. There could be others. And then the others could be purely, which I did not put, I thought I would put it, but I removed it later on, is to kill my competition. I literally sign an alliance to kill them. I know it's a wrong intended one, but people do use it. And so I will sign up, and I think within Microsoft we've seen this. We kill off Nokia, buy them and kill them. Fox Pro. Right? And so we brought in Fox Pro to make access bigger and killed off the product. And there's a lot of you buy the competition to make your product stronger and kill that brand name. And you make your product stronger. So if you feel a threat, maybe you can spend money on coming into a strategic alliance and take it off and become the number one in the market. Oracle bought MySQL, and I think they don't know what to do with MySQL. And so they're trying to literally see how Oracle can be bigger with MySQL. So that could be a third reason, but later I removed that because I thought that's not the primary reason. So maybe the whole arrangement did not work, so that went on. If you look at joint ventures, I think majority of the alliances, people think I have to put money into the alliance. I have to put money into the partnership. So let's form a third company, which is a joint venture. So let's suppose if NCEL, ICT for Agri, was to now create a third company that was only weather report company. And so weather reports for agriculture-based solutions. So that could be a totally third. So the reason for that could be vertical integration. So making sure that there's depth knowledge onto one integration. And this could be using technology, using communications, using agriculture, and saying a third company, and putting in investments to do that. To say that, all right, what do I have? What does the partner have that can add value to create a third company? To make sure that there's upgrading and improving the skill sets of both the companies, so that a third company, or to totally disrupt the industry and come up with a whole new technology, whole new product, and totally shape the industry evolution and go into a different area. And for Ncell, it could be maybe going into, I don't know, telephone based on IP, and so totally going into a whole new sector. A multi-partner consortia, to create a consortium of multiple companies, I think the whole reason would be to get a win-win, saying I have this, but if 5 people run it, then 5 people can benefit from this. And so I have one technology that I can now have multiple consortia to benefit from it. So I have agriculture information, now I will give it to not only Ncell, I'll give it to Nepal Telecom, and I'll also give it to television stations. I'll also give it to FM. I'll also give it to other channels so that they can benefit from it. And at the end, delivery ke bata, SMS bata. The SMS doesn't have to go through only Ncell. It can go through any carrier, but the beneficiary should be farmers. And you can look at multi-stakeholders to create a much bigger consortia to say that FM pani aunus na, television pani aunus. And we have the weather stations and delivery mechanism, SMS, but that content can be repackaged into a FM program, can be repackaged into television, can be repackaged into, I don't know, apps, can be whatever. The delivery mechanisms can change. And so it could be a multi-partner consortium, a cross-holding consortium, where the holding company can be multiple organizations, and ESMA management can be Ncell. And so consortium of different companies. Industries spanning, firms sharing knowledge, cost and risk, very similar to Star Alliance, because every airline puts in millions of dollars into Star Alliance. It's literally, it's not a third company, but it's an alliance that has created such a lot of business for all of the companies together. One of the risks is, the biggest risk is incompatibility. The size of the two organizations, 80 different ones, that to incompatibility le mars. And the culture ne mildaina. The two organizations just cannot have mutual respect and win from the partnership. And so I think the biggest risk is just incompatibility. And we tried to get married, but the marriage didn't work. And so I think that just doesn't work. And the mutual respect, if it is not there, it just doesn't work. There's a risk of knowledge or skill leakage. So let's suppose 6 months down the road, Ncell says, now why do we need ICT for agriculture? You suppose that, I just have to add 2 staff. And all of the knowledge base that ICT for Agri we thought that would be bringing in, I don't really need it. So kill that agreement, kill the whole company, I can do it on my own. And so there's this huge risk of a knowledge and skill leakage. They get the knowledge that you have, they don't need you anymore. At some point, they'll just throw you out. Suruma cha ke na jasto थियो, त्यसपछि यति के भन्ने त रेसनरी बन्यो हैन. अनि त्यो गर्नलाई त I can do it myself. I can add 2 more staff, they will do it. I don't need this company anymore. And so there's this risk that your knowledge, your skill is leaked out to them. They have it now, they don't need you anymore. How do you retain your intellectual property? And there's a whole big risk of the risk of your dependence onto Ncell so much. As soon as Ncell stops your service, your income then got it. Although you cannot pay your salaries anymore. You're so dependent on Ncell that without Ncell, you are dead. And so that dependence becomes more and more. And then you've got to also, as an organization, you've got to say that I should not be so much dependent on only one player. And 15% 85% that's me. अर्को पार्टनर गयो भने अर्को 15% गयो अनि मेरो 75% त छ नि 60% त छ नि यु आई थिंक यु गट टु ह्याभ मल्टिपल च्यानल्स अब एउटा गयो भने 100% नै गयो भने त सिद्धि यो डेट for you to stand and recover again will be very so there is a risk of over dependence on that alliance and I think that's a huge risk. There's also the risk of strategic control costs, saying if I have to still control my business and all of that and to have that the ownership of my what is the cost like अहिलेसम्म त सबै एनसेलले गरेको मैले आफैले चलाउनु पर्यो भने what's the cost like and that's a risk that I will not be able to bear the costs. And so, and bholi gaera independently मैले चलाउनु पर्यो भने what is the cost like? And so you've got to also start thinking at that. So how do I balance my cooperation? How do I balance my competition? It's so important to be able to understand saying, I have this collaboration, cooperation with Ncell, but yet bholi gaera they could be my competition. And I could be killing with my success myself. And so how do I make sure that I have a better understanding of the skill base of Ncell, of a better understanding of why do they need me? And what is it that I have that they need me? And what is it that I have that I should retain so that 6 months later they don't kill me? They don't throw me out. They don't throw the whole agreement out. I go to Vietnam, they need me now. 6 months later, they don't need me because they can do the business themselves. They know how to create websites, they know how to create e-com sites and all of that. Suruma, they want to get the knowledge. Once you give the knowledge, what do you need? A Nepali company cannot say. And so they will just throw you out. They'll do the business themselves. And how do you keep your alliance personnel long term? So let's suppose you have a really good person, Ncell hire garda pani ke garne. And this person might want to work for Ncell rather than ICT for Agri. So how do you kind of have that balance between cooperation and competition so that you keep your personnel as long term as possible? And I think for smaller startups, this is a huge challenge when you're trying to partner with larger organizations. You partner with Ncell and Ncell. So I think you need to start thinking, saying, how do I balance this to say retain my agreement of the partnership alliance with Ncell for a much longer time? So say Suruma knowledge base चाहिए त्यसपछि they don't need you anymore. How do I make sure that I continue with that? I think one of the early on the game you got to, and Nepalma, this is a huge challenge. How do I command the loyalty among personnel assigned to the alliance? So, as ICT for everyone, you're going to put in someone who is going to say, all right, manage my relationship with Ncell. But then you're starting to questioning his loyalty because he's always talking about Ncell and not about you. And benefits of Ncell to own the target. So how do I make sure that that person is still loyal to ICT for Agri and not to Ncell? And then you have to make sure that he's looking after your interest and your company's interest rather than against your interest. And he's leaking out intellectual property, he's leaking out internal information and saying, and slowly your value is lost. And because many times the value that we have is only the knowledge that we have, that we bring to the table, and the skills that we have. If that is gone, I think your alliance is gone. So there's a huge ethical risk. Oh, but this is purely ethical. The person should not do it. But Nepalma, that ethics level is very low. The person will sell out their loyalty. And so how do you manage that risk? How do you make sure that your collaboration and competition within the balance between your collaboration and your competition is the right balance? And if the collaboration body bhayo competition gets lost out. If the competition is so high, they'll kill you, and you don't need they don't need you anymore. And at the same time, you're also looking at saying, how do I work with Nepal Telecom? And Ncell immediately you talk to Nepal Telecom, we are not even working with you. But how do I make sure that I work with both? And so that Yota goyo 50% the Pakistani. And how do I talk to Jio? how do I talk to Axiata and to all of their networks in all of the rest of the world? And to build that into a bigger ground. And I think that's the challenge that comes with this collaboration. And so that alliance, I collaborate so much that they think that they own me and they do not want me to talk to anyone else. And I'm literally bought out by them without paying any money. पैसा नतिरिकन उनीहरूले भनेको जस्तो मैले काम गर्नु पर्यो. And that's a huge challenge. How do I still get my independence? Because भोलि गएर people just see Ncell. They do not see ICT for Agri anymore. And this is an Ncell service. I paid 2 rupees per day, 10 rupees per week for this Ncell service. Nowhere ICT for Agri is there. Not the naam kamaunu, not the dam kamaunu. And so again, you got to see what makes sense. Do you still hold your independence? Having said that, I think it is still very important to get partnerships and get into alliance. Ncell is a big company. You have to get into the alliance. And the hathi chadeko afno height kaile pani 10 feet 12 feet hunदैन. Hathi चढ्ने बित्तिकै 12 feet को height चढ्यो. And then you have a 1 ton of power under you. And that horsepower under you. And so that's the power that you get when you ride on top of an elephant. And I think that's, you can literally bulldoze anyone on top of an elephant and really go into the jungles and throw out trees and things like that. So I think as a summary, it's extremely important to get into partnerships, despite all the risks. And the business गरेपछि the risk will inadvertently will be there, but I think we just have to say, how do I manage my risks better so that I can grow from the partnership. The market is dynamic, where whatever existed today, tomorrow things are going to change. The equation changes. So how do I become light-footed? How do I become agile? How do I become dynamic enough so that when the dynamics in the market changes, my value in the partnership is still there? Because they don't see the value, but I have to keep on adding that value for my partnership so that I keep on adding on and keep on growing. Like for example, with this partnership with USAID for data-driven farming, how do we keep on adding this value so that our value into the partnership goes to the next level? We're now already discussing saying after the first week of September, how do I take it into incubation phase for the top 4? Now, so how do we keep on adding value? And so what is the next phase? Because it doesn't end on September 1st week. So next phase, how do I keep on adding value? And again, I'm not a vendor for USAID. We're not getting paid for this. We're into partnership, and we're at the right level. Majority of the funding for this might have come from the US government, from USAID, but we are also contributing and making this whole thing larger. So I am riding on top of an elephant. With no investment, I get the whole benefit with very little investment, so we get the benefit of the whole data-driven farming program. And I think within our organization, we know how to do this. We partner a lot. And we like to partner with, very similar of how you're doing with Ncell, we like to partner with the largest organizations possible. And many of these organizations do not believe in working with private sector. And the governments don't like to work with private sector. We are a private sector. We are not an NGO. We are for-profit. And I work with non-profit as a for-profit company. And I work with governments, US governments, as a for-profit company. And we're very clear with that. We are for-profit. We're not, NGO, non-profit. And after paying all the expenses, if possible, we will make a profit and take it home. And we are very clear with that. And I think they're also clear. Today, the development sector likes to work with for-profit companies, and they're also clear with that. It is hard to capture the value in strategic alliances. So slowly you'll say, Ncell kina chahiye, हामी सबै गर्न सक्छौं. And slowly they'll say, why do we need ICT for agriculture? हामी गर्न सक्छौं. How do I keep on? Because now, next time around, USAID Nepal might say, why do we need Big Nepal? We can deliver that training. We have all the course content, all the videos now. Why do we need them now? We have better facilities than they have. And all of the experts that they're asking for, the USAID like, Why do we need them? So again, how do I keep on adding value to the partnership so that it grows? And each organization को values है. And no one can be, of course, गरे भने सकिन्छ होला, but how do we keep on adding value so that the partnership grows and goes to the next level? Knowledge resource exchange is important, right, to making sure that there is an exchange of knowledge in all of the partnership organizations. Every time, the size of the partner organizations are different. It's never the same. Right? So it's always very different sizes that comes into these alliances. So I think that's all I have to say in terms of my delivery in terms of a presentation. I'd like to open up the floor for any questions, comments, anything. So.
Any questions? I think more than question. I'm very thankful to this workshop because as we are trying to deal with answer for partnership and having ground to think many times how we should consider partnership. And I think this workshop was so eye-opening workshop to be consider many things about the advantages and disadvantages of partnership. Risks. At the end, it felt like it was so it was not easy as it is thought. Many things to be considered, and I would love to keep this going. And if possible, I would like to request the video of this workshop to be provided.
I believe both the PowerPoint deck and the video will be available in a couple of days on YouTube. Is it a public channel?
Yes.
Okay. So it is publicly available.
Even if I have to pay for the video, then
We don't have to be.
If you're paying me, I'll not say no. I'll never say no to money, but you don't have to, but I'll not say no.
But I think, this was like a practical example, a relevant one that we can easily relate to, and I think it was most beneficial for us. And we would like to keep up the conversation and get assist from Microsoft Innovation Hub to get going with this partnership. Thank you. Yes.
Any other questions, comments?
Any questions, comments, or thoughts that you would like to share?
Thank you, Alan sir, for this session, and because I have never thought from this angle that this is also one of the best way to grow our business. I now know that strategic partnership is very good for the business, but how to that preserve that intellectual property and that risk management, just adding value is enough.
I think normally what we try to do is to see, like a startup will try not to partner with another startup. And we try to go with the MCELs, with the largest organizations, if possible, the UN organizations, if possible, whichever is able to provide the biggest money, that's our first decision. And who are people who are able to bring in the highest resources into the alliance, that's where the benefit comes. But my inputs is also think in terms of startups alliances as well, and a smaller organization getting together to be larger. And in every other country they have these with different names where startups come together, smaller organizations come together, and physically they're on one office space. Most of these office spaces are open spaces. So every time you're talking to a customer, everyone hears. And there's no privacy to the discussions you're having. You're negotiating your deal with Encel, and you've got 3 phone calls a day, and you have to talk to different people. You're talking to your family members and saying, I can talk to Encel, what do you think? And then you're trying to get advice, and all of this conversation other people are hearing. So many times, now while you're talking about this, I'm sure other organizations are saying, oh, as City for Agri has partnership with Encel, how do I get it as well? No, because everyone is trying to say, Encel and partnership sounds good. Why only ICT for Agri now? Why doesn't my company also have partnership with Encel? And so on and so forth. Everyone would be thinking same. So I think the challenge is also to look at saying, how do I build up alliances with smaller organizations at the same time with larger? And how do I create this multiple, and at least when I am from Meru, if I put the Mid Nepalco hat and I'm trying to build a strategic alliance with any organization, the first thing that I try to tell them is, I'm not asking for money. It opens doors. As soon as I start saying, I'm here to ask for sponsorship, support governments. No one has money. Now, as soon as I tell them, I'm not asking, eventually the money will come. And eventually the resources will come, but if I start the whole conversation asking for money, the door closes. But if I tell them, look, you can also benefit in our partnership, then the conversation keeps on happening. And so it cannot be just money for me and expense for you. It's got to be win-win. We both add value. So the partnership has to be, we have to show them, we have to show Encel, this is the value that you get with the partnership with me. And similarly, you have to add that value for your organization, no matter how small you are. That really doesn't matter. Most, I think, in general, for Nepalese, I think our biggest sickness is we try to be very humble. We try to position ourselves as, I have a simple solution, I have a simple thing that I do, and I only provide information on agriculture. We try to be very, very humble. Same thing if I see our neighbor country, India, they have got the best solution, and they try to really make it big. The other extremes of them. And they boast it, and they try to, they make it so big. And they have nothing there, they're bluffing, but they know how to bluff well. And I mean, culturally, we are on the other end. Even we have a gold mine, we say, I have a small piece of metal with me. And we don't try to make it really big. So so again, we need to change our culture to say, how do we show value to what I have, and to make sure that that partnership helps them and take it to the next level. I hope this will be that answers pretty well. I think we need to look at saying, keep on the lookout saying, how do I build partnerships? How do I build alliances? I think that's going to grow very fast. And many times, partnerships, alliances means you also need to sacrifice, you also need to put it. It's not only win-win, it's a give and take. And you also need to give onto that partnership. And many times it could be, maybe it doesn't work. We work with ILO, where we wanted to develop a portal for job seekers. And so what we wanted to do is aggregation of all of the Jobs Nepal and all of these sites where we have a super site, which is a mixture between monster.com and LinkedIn, so that your profile is there, your CV is there, and from there you could reapply through different portals, through Jobs Nepal, through a lot of these portals onto the employers. Hopefully these 1,600, 1,700 Nepalese youth who are living abroad will find work in Nepal, and they don't have to leave abroad. And so whatever money that they're looking for abroad, they'll be able to find here. We worked on it, developed the portal, 1 year, our agreement with ILO, worked on and all of that, and we're giving this pro bono gratis with zero cost to ILO. And I wanted to make sure with all of the work that we did, that Nepalese have a better employment information portal. And this was launching time. On the website, we had powered by Big Nepal. And so we had a branding for our company into the site. Within that, 1 or 2 years time that we worked on this solution, 3 Director Generals of Department of Labor changed. The final Department of Director General of DOL, Department of Labor, his stand was, I don't want to do anything in the private sector. The site never came up. That was the end of our relationship. And he just doesn't want to work in the private sector. Simply. And I'm saying, we are not even charging you 1 paisa for this. And I've put in years of months of work from my team, we're delivering it free of cost. And I was also adamant saying, "Hamle dam paeko chhaina naum ta paunu paryo." Our name has to be on the site. And so it's got to be, and bholi kehi garyo त्यो site ma, if there's any technology fault, I get the blame. And I'm saying, this was developed by Miknapal, so it was such a bad site. It doesn't work because it was developed. So blame I'm also willing to take. But we never were able to roll this out. And finally we just said, we got out of our relationship and said, this didn't work. And the only thing was, ILO was fine, Nepal government did not want to work with private sector. Or this one Director General did not want to work with private sector. And because of his power, he said. And I refused to. We were at the end saying, but I said, this is also kind of ethical for me. And if I don't build my organization's reputation, and make sure that we have the branding there, like if you look at Encelco documents, Encelco branding is so strong, the logo on the background is so strong, and things like that. How do you make sure that you have equal branding? And then to make sure that it doesn't have to be the same size, but the equal branding and that purely shows that we are partners. And the value might not be equal, but partnership alliances are there and things like that. Anything, comments?
So joint venture, what will be, in which case two companies meet and work together, or in which case two companies meet and form a third one?
Now suppose, all right, so we have another weird example, ICT for agriculture, and then we have a bank. And the bank is trying to now, earlier somewhat the bank has been providing services to only rich customers. People who have money can get more money from the bank. People that do not have money, normally farmers, banks are not comfortable for that. So who do they go to? The gaunko money lender. 36% ब्याज तिरेर पैसा ऋणमा लिन्छ हैन 3 पुस्ताले तिर्नुपर्छ जति तिरे पनि चुक्ता हुँदैन. So they get into this and not into the normal formal banking sector. And so how do we make sure? Then the gap might be for us to create a third organization where the money that a bank has, now they say I want to get into the insurance of sheep, buffaloes, cows, and all of the vastu in the farm. And so the reach out ICT for Agri already has 6 lakh users, and they have the farmers have a good database and all of that the bank does not have. So both decide that we are going to create a third company that's going to only do insurance, not banking. Banking you do. ICT for Agri has other businesses, information and all of that, apps and all of that you do technology. But the third middle path that we created is insurance. Okay, the insurance is totally different. Yo pani haina, third organization handle that. So ICT for Agri also puts in money into this, and the bank also puts in money, and they get into the third business of agriculture insurance. And they get a subsidy from the government, and the farmer gets it free. I don't know. And so this would be a totally different area that you're getting into, where 2 plus 2 gets into more than 4, 22, and becomes much bigger than just 4. So this is like, you still have your business of ICT for Agri, the bank still has their business, a third business of Agri and finance gets into Agri insurance. Maybe, I mean, I'm just giving a wild example. I'm sure there are many examples. Because we have been talking about ICT for Agri as a case study, I thought this could be a third example of a joint venture. But suppose if you were to look at a joint venture, then Encel might come up with ICT for Agri and say, all right, we are going to create a phone for the farmers. So every farmer gets a free phone, but they have to make sure that they subscribe to all of these services. So veterinary doctor dial 121 and you get veterinary doctor. You want weather information, dial 123. And this phone is meant for agriculture, and this is free phone. But you have to pay a monthly subscription, and the monthly subscription is tailored to only farmers. So everything that you need, and then you have to buy seeds, dial this number, we sell you the seeds. You have to buy fertilizer, dial this number, we sell you the fertilizer. You have to buy insurance, dial this. You need finance, dial this. You need to hire a tractor, dial this. You need people to work in your farms, dial this. So all the services that a farmer needs is here. And I make money on every service that you need. So whatever money that you spend, you want to sell your fruits, dial here. I'll buy your fruits. I'll buy your honey. And I'll buy whatever that you produce, your vegetables. I know. You need investment, I'll give it to you. So I become the marketplace for farmers. I know. So it could be a total different product. And all of that delivery and the communication is with the farmer because I give you a free phone. So from the free phone, communication with the farmer is happening. It's no longer an app. It's with the hardware and the telephone and everything. So I am having app, but now I'm saying phone free. So app and you can not install anything else here. And you want entertainment, I'll give you entertainment. Everything only I provide. I become your sole information provider. And your connectivity and everything. I don't know, I'm just giving a wild, weird example. So third party, let's create another solution. And international phone number, I'll give you Skype, and I own that carrier. And you want remittance coming from overseas, I am the remittance company. You dial this number, and I give you the remittance money as well. I give you all the services, and on the back end, I don't do all of this business. So on the back end, I have a finance company. On the back end, I have a remittance company. On the back end, I have an insurance company. On the back end, I have a veterinary doctor. On the back end, so I have alliances with all of these companies. In the forefront, I am the phone provider. And Samsung alliance is they terminate the calls and the SMS. But I own the relationship with the customer because of my phone. Could be. So this is a weird example of a joint venture that could be totally different.
Till now we heard a presentation about putting the case study of ICT for Agri and answer, which is yet to be happen. It would be really nice if you have real practical examples that we have seen around, having a partnership between big and small one, and what was the outcome and what could have been done to make it better. If you have, then we'd really love to know.
Yeah, I just shared my bitter experience with ILO, so that did not work. You've seen some of our other examples, like with USAID and our partnership.
Maybe about tech.
Any other examples?
How do you stop them from cannibalizing on your business?
You have to be so smart with it. It's extremely difficult.
You were talking about partnering with big companies, right? Like in case of a country like ours, there is a very big risk that we partner with big companies that cannibalize us.
Also, day one they'll try to say, can I buy you out? If that doesn't work, they'll say, I'll kill you from the market. I'll own your IP. 6 months, they'll kill you out. 30% मेरो revenue उसलाई दिइरहनु पर्यो. मेरो एकजना staff राख्यो भने त्यो सबै काम हुन्छ, दुईजना staff राख्यो भने why do I have to share my 30% revenue with this small company? Let me try to kill them off. I save 30% I save 30% expense for my company. On top of that, the employee that you hire is no longer loyalty. He's more loyal to himself. So how do I retain that ethical loyalty as a small company? So risks. At the same time, for you to grow without this alliance, it doesn't work.
I was also given this option. Why not we buy all your branding and all your technicalities, and you just provide the content after that. You will still be there, but not with your platform, but you will be providing the content. So yeah, I was also offered this, and I said,
You should also stay open for the discussion. So
My-
what's the
My
price?
question is, like, did they offer you, was it for purely emotional reasons that you said no, like this is my company?
In my lifetime, I had an offer to sell my company. By one of the largest business houses in Nepal. They brought a consultant from the US and looked at the whole bit. For me, it was emotional. Unlimited is my brand, I will not sell it. And hindsight, I think I should have dismissed. See what that brand is worth. Kati offer gardo raheछ हेरौँ न. Because frankly, I think you should also look at what the
You
offer
could
is.
have looked at that, and then if you do not want this,
Yeah.
there's an option to.
Actually, definitely I was not positive, and when he offered that, my expression went down, and I said,
So,
well.
my advice to you would be open.
Yeah.
Don't get too emotional. Actually, I was talking, the new business that I'm setting up, the whole idea is, how can I sell it in 10 years? I'm looking at an exit policy, so add the value so much and make a killing profit out of it. And I'm saying, I will, especially around, second time around in my life, I'm going to sell it. The price has to be right. Maybe if the price is right. So I think my advice is, when we are building the company, we become, it's my baby. And I'm not going to give away my baby for any cost. This is mine. We become emotionally attached to it. I'm saying detach. Let's see what the price is. If the price is right, I think it's a commercial decision. You can build ICT for Agri Part 2. Version 2 or agriculture tech, whatever. Rebrand it. And I think second time round you'll do it much better. You'll be wiser, you'll spend less, you have that much of mistakes less to make. And I think my advice would be see what the offer is, to add the value more, and to say, all right, Alliance mine, if you want to buy me out, what's the best offer you can give? And I'm not keen.
Because we, like as an MBA student, like we have entrepreneurship as a subject in our college, so we always have this discussion. Like the foreigners, the Americans, they establish a company, they establish some certain value, and they sell it off.
Not really. We only hear about the companies that got sold into success.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think even how many companies get bought over versus how many actually die. The death of the companies the number is so much more higher than that companies that get acquired. And so the mergers and acquisitions, another name for joint ventures, and the M&A market is much lesser. But once you've grown big and reached that stage, then the mergers and acquisitions can happen. You can get merged by Encel or acquired by Encel, or look at you giving away. It's not the topic today, but the whole M&A area where you give up your ownership of the company and you give it out, merged into another company, and you get acquired by another company. I still think you should look of that as an option. And of course, I think in Nepal, the biggest challenge is what are the investment opportunities available to me? Where do I look for money? And how do I grow? And I was asked to speak on this, but I thought, I think my answer to Naina was, because the nature of the group, which is very international, I could not focus on only the Nepali aspects of investment, because Nepal, it's a totally different dynamics of access to money, access to finance than in the international scenario. And in Nepal, I think you cannot go to a bank and say, this is my business plan, will you finance me? It's not done. You have to go and say, this is the land and property I have. Motorable batoma cha, yati value ko cha, yati crore cha, all I'm asking is yati lakh. Then they'll listen to you. And if you go with a business plan and say, this is what I want to do, the bank will never understand you. Beyond that, the only other area that you can get investment from is your family and friends. Virtual money is very limited, and that's the only area. Or you have to go to Asau and pay a very large interest, and a very high risk. And with this company, many times it has to be backed up with your, not only your assets but also your reputation and everything. So, गाह्रो छ in terms of access to finance in Nepal. For I think हाम्रो Nepali audience को लागि, my answer is look for customers. The best way to make money is not investments in Nepal, is income. खर्च कम गर्ने, आम्दानी बढाउने, त्यो डिफरेन्स गर्ने, कमाउने. हामीले लगेर, I mean, 97, 98 period when I was when my business was doing well and all of that, every week I was in the newspapers, on television. I was very media savvy, right? Every week. And I think in Nepal it doesn't happen. In any other country, my stock value would have skyrocketed. And here, I would rather now spend the time in my business building it, talking to customers rather than talking to journalists. It doesn't really help. And when you have a financial problem, if you can't pay your rent and salaries and your expenses, it hurts you. The journalists are not, the media is not going to help you. And so I think at the end of the day, you would rather build your business, you'd rather build your revenue and a stream of revenue rather than building your hype. And a hype in Nepal does not work. Other countries it works. You can build up such a lot of hype that now you can talk to venture capitalists. And then you can talk to angel financiers. And in Nepal, both of this does not exist. And we don't have a venture capital fund, we don't have angels. And the only angel that we could have is family members, friends and family. And whether they can be called angel or not, I don't know. And so I think financing here is a different landscape for Nepal. So I think for us, the only financing that I know is don't look at debt financing. Look at, in terms of equity पनि गाह्रो छ. No one is going to buy equity in your startup. The only way is revenue financing. Get it financed with revenue. And build up your income base. And I think that's the only way to survive. Without having a steady revenue, I think Nepal gaह्रो छ. So build up as much income as possible from the business. And खर्चहरू एकदम कन्जुसाइले घटाउने हो. And then this month I made this much, so next month I can spend this much. And the difference, मेरो bank balance and then build up your cash flow and the bank balance as much as possible. Most businesses in Nepal fail because of cash flow. Payment doesn't come on time. यहाँ पैसा उठाउनु पर्छ, त्यहाँ पैसा उठाउनु, यत्रो बजारमा पैसा छ, and you fail because you don't have the money in time to pay your expenses. And as a founder, half your time goes on managing your cash flow. And once your cash flow is positive and you've got enough money on the bank, I think then your life becomes so much easier. I've learned it the hard way. And because when you're starting up your business, I think majority of the time is you're going after your cash flow, trying to manage your cash flow. And once you have your cash flow managed, I think you start becoming more profitable. So as a startup, I think the expenses that you have, I think 10 times before spending any money. Does your revenue support it? And stay lean, thin, as tight as possible, as small as possible, so that only, and unlike other countries, we do not have a credit card to base our expense on. I know a lot of companies in the US, usko card ma $10,000 something, $10,000 kharcha garera sakeko. He has no idea how to pay it. So don't get into that debt financing. That's very expensive. Don't get into that because that is going to kill your business. Definitely going to, that's not the way to finance your business. And so the only way to finance it in Nepal is build up a revenue stream. And then only spend money where you can afford. Don't get lavish into buying the next iPhone, buying the next Apple tablet. And it's good to show around. It's fancy, it looks like you're prospering. Don't have that fake. After you've made your money, I think don't have a show off. So I think that's not important. Especially when you're starting up, you want to show I'm successful. And you want to show off is very important, but I think be a little more conservative to say that show off is really not long term, and that's all vaporware. And be more sustainable. I think I'm that strong boy, but I think once you can afford it, then you start buying it. Don't get into this credit financing where at some point the whole house of cards falls down. And that's where startups fail and they have to close down and it becomes a very bad experience. And the only way I think we can sustain a business is income. Or I think Malite has an get the thing there. Don't think about getting a loan, not in Nepal. And so, because our bankers are not so friendly. The day you are in problem, they'll be the first people to kill you. I mean, on record, I say, educated kasai. No matter how that goat kills, shouts, cries, marera source. And if you're in debt, no matter how much you cry, unarle marera source. And these are all educated kasai. Marera source. So when you are in a problem, they're your worst friends. They give money to people that have money. When you need money, they're not there. So mata of the kibans, when in Nepal when you become a banker, don't take loan. Ulto biazma kamaunus, fixed deposit ma halnus. So earn money, don't pay interest. Earn an interest. So if possible, invest into a bank. That's the most profitable business. Not getting a loan from the bank. And as I do, interest, it hasn't changed. And the banking is so difficult in Nepal. I've learned the hard way. And so the only way I think to be successful is to have your own income and look at where you can save money. Tax healthy save every money. In the early stages, every paisa helps. Once you have that money in the bank, then the kharcha garna happens. And the worst that happens is you say, I got a customer. But next month I make this money, let's spend it. That's the worst that happens. You see this vapor, this mirage in front, and the mirage, now the money is going to come. It doesn't come that easily. You think, I have an alliance with Encel, and then you do calculations, I have 2,000 SMSs a day, I make this money. Don't bank on it. You start already calculating, saying, this is the things that I'm going to get. 2,000 SMSs a day, and for every SMS I make 10 paisa, I make 200 rupees a day, and that you start doing your calculations, and then what is the story? Where you start kicking, and then all your pots and pans get, you have nothing to sell. And so I think in Nepal, we have to look at saying, what do I have in the bank that I can spend? Not in the market. The market could discipline. It doesn't come on time. So you raise your money, once it's in the bank, then you start spending. Then you can buy your iPad, then you can buy the next motorcycle, whatever, the dirt bike that you're looking at, and all of that once you have the money in the bank. Don't go credit financing in Nepal. It's so expensive and very, very dangerous.
And sir, are there any legal procedures behind strategic partnership?
I think one of the things that you have to put in your contract is, if you disagree, then where do you take your disagreements? My advice is, in the agreement, and I'm learning this from the hard way. In the agreement, say that you have arbitration. Don't take it to court. Arbitration money ko ke ho bhane. So I have a fight, Sanga, and we disagree with each other. So what we do is, hami pancha rakhchhau, third party rakhchhau. So Naina I trust, and then you trust somebody. So they too are going to sit down to find out what the disputes are, and to solve the disputes and say what it is. So legal framework, there's an arbitration. Judges are arbitrator bundles. Lawyers are arbitrator bundles. So best way is to look at an arbitration in the so that if there is a dispute tomorrow, you say arbitrators. You don't go to court. So the court is the arbitrator. So there's a third party with the legal knowledge. They'll sit and do the judgment. It doesn't go into 8 years in court.
What about the compensation?
So the arbitrators will decide. So it'll be they become the judge to decide who is at fault and what is the compensation. About normal police case and all of that done at Halebani, business to band bhayalcha. No, and then you go to district court, and then you go to appellate court, and then you go to Supreme Court, 8-10 years. I know. So arbitrator will close it within 2 weeks. And loss by loss, profit by loss, then you start off. So look for arbitration clause in your agreements.
One भने जस्तो लिगल कुरा चाहिन्छ कि चाहिँदैन भन्दा पनि लिगल भित्र चाहिँ के कुराहरू चाहिँ फोर्सिङ कुराहरू चाहिँ अहिले
The contract, the agreement is the legal procedure actually.
अनि मलाई
And please remember, NCL has the best lawyers, you don't.
अनि भन्न चाहिँ नि यस्तो
होइन।
उहरूको त ठुलो खालको हुन्छ हैन
Yeah, just so if you deal with larger companies and you more risk of killing your heart.
So in our building, we have Kumari Bank upstairs. So I just signed a lease agreement for 5 years with them. And in the lease agreement, last minute, मैले सही गरेर लिएर गइसकेपछि त्यस मेरो म्यानेजरले मानेन. So अब टर्म्स के हुन्छ भने तपाईको तर्फबाट छोड्नु पर्यो भने 1 वर्षको एडभान्स इन्फर्मेसन हामीले छोड्नु पर्यो भने 15 दिनको. I said that's not fair. तपाईले चाहिँ 15 दिनमा घर खाली गरेर जानु हुने हैन. मैले तपाईलाई निकाल्नु पर्यो भने 1 वर्षको नोटिस दिनु पर्ने. And this comes when my manager didn't agree to sign, right? And they're delayed by 1.5 months of paying rent. And they're saying, I can't pay you rent because agreement is signed up. And they try this corporate culture thing, and I said, take Santa, this one it's not fair. Give us level playing field. Dubai 3 mahina bhanau. And then it's level playing field. And Dubai 6 mahina bhanau, then it's both like fair bhayo ni. Why do you want X side ekdam bhari and अर्को side ekdam weak? त्यो त fair भएन हैन. And it's जसले हेर्दाखेरि पनि अब उसले चाहिँ 15 दिनमा छोडेर जान पाउने हैन. मैले चाहिँ निकाल्नलाई 1 वर्ष नोटिस दिनु पर्ने. त्यो त fair भएन. And you have to be very, sometimes you have to walk away saying हैन त्यसो त छोडेर जानुस्. It just doesn't sound correct. And level playing गरौँ न, दुवैतिर balance गरौँ. And why do you need 1 वर्ष and why do I only get 15 days? What is the logic to this? And let's make it level playing field. Dubai balance equal garon, and you just have to negotiate, right? And sometimes that means you might lose NCL. Fine, it's better to lose NCL now than to lose your company 6 months later. And negotiate well so that this can be 2-3 years of and many years of partnership with them. And you have to be very clear saying, I want a partnership, but win-win goes, right? मलाई मारेर यो partnership, I don't want to get into it. I don't want to kill my business in 6 months. I want to grow. I want this partnership to prosper. I want both of us to win-win and we become bigger. I want to make sure that you never get into the agriculture information business and I never get into the telecom business. We have our own space, Dubai grow garau. The whole level, the planning level ne mathi आओस्, हामी Dubai ships माथि जाउँ. हैन अब some ships ठुलो भएको हुनाले बढी पानी लिन्छ होला, बढी कमाउँछ होला. Some ships सानो भएकोले कम कमाउँछ, which is fine. But I think we all have to grow. And I think we just have to, negotiation, we have to make it very clear to say that, sorry, I can't agree on this term. It's a plain name, and it's not the same. And I think negotiate hard. Look for advice.
Are you guys using lawyers for this?
No, not yet. And गरेको छैन. अब यसको म एप्रोच चाहिँ सोध्न खोज्दै थिएँ कि लाइक अब सानो स्टार्टअपको त अब त्यस्तो बेस्ट नहुन सक्छ होइन. सो एप्रोच चाहिँ उनीहरूकोबाट कस्तो आउँछ अनि त्यो लाइन बाई लाइन चाहिँ यो एक्सेप्टेबल छ कि छैन भनेर त्यही एप्रोच हो कि एउटा.
Many times, Nepalma, a lawyer does what you tell them. The most that they'll do is, yo legal bhasamai cha ki chaina हेरिदिन्छ document. Okay, so you have to see what value does the lawyer bring. It's very easy to say that let's bring a lawyer, तर उसले value ल्याउने के हो त? At the end of the day, it's your business, your common sense. If you feel threatened, negotiate hard. Many times you want to take over risk. I need NCL now at any cost. So only body risk is. And a lawyer, then I know you shouldn't do it whenever you want to do it. I'll give you an example. We just bought out into a school. And the reason being we wanted to get into the education. And the school, kindakeri, the shareholders terms and conditions from मैले के राखेँ भने I said at any point there is a dispute between the shareholders, I'll pay you 10% more than what your investment was, and I'll buy you out, or you can buy me out. Same terms, 10% more. And a lawyer asked me 4 times saying, do you really want to sign this? Body company lost my boy, why are you offering 10% more? And it's very likely, because education sector doesn't make money, it's very likely that you go into a loss. Do you still want to pay 10% more? And I said, yes, because the 10% था उसले बैंक में पैसा हालेको भए पनि उसले तो interest कमाउँथ्यो. And then it's fair. If I want to buy, because the whole idea is, because I don't know the shareholders, I'm buying a whole new school that has a history of 10 years. I don't know the shareholders, and I want to retain the principal, vice principal, and everyone so that they continue on. And I said, these are the terms and conditions that I'd like to offer you. If we are always fighting with each other, we should have a golden handshake and say, sorry, we couldn't work together. And your financials should be protected. And the lawyer kept on asking me, and I said, no, I want this term. So you have to have the gut feeling. And the lawyer is saying, I know, company lost my power, you can 10% extra run. And the company lost my power, there was a share of value, body lost my power, there was a value got you. You can just buy him out at the body price. And I said, you're fair boy. I know. And then so again, many times, as a co-founder, you'd like to find out what's your gut feel. Sometimes you want to take a very high risk and sell more or just what to say was. This is going to be my springboard to take me to the next level. And so, only body risk and it's you're so comfortable with other revenues, I don't answer I'm surviving, I'm okay. I'm not so desperate. Depends on how much of your risk-taking thing that you have. And it all depends, it's your decision. The lawyers will, at the end, you can say, when you're saying, oh, katiko risk malai cha. Do a risk assessment. You can ask a lawyer friend to just go through and do a risk assessment for you. Katiko risk, that's what's malai. But at the end, the risk-taking, business is all about risk. Your calculated risk. And at the end, you have to take the risk. So it's your decision to see how much of risk that you're willing to take. Also, Encel is saying, how much of a risk do I take with the Chrissy app that I go with ICT for Agri? And so they're looking at, about Encel ko ma ke huna sakcha bhane, oh, these are my Encel app winners. App ke bhन्छ उनीहरुको Encel app camp winners. And मैले 3 वर्ष Encel app camp चलाइसकेँ, कसैलाई मैले sustain गर्न सकेको छैन. I don't mind signing with them because it shows that मेरो activity in the past, I'm helping a startup. So it could be part of that camouflage CSR that they need to show. I know. So they're not really serious about the product, but at the same time, they're motivated. You've got to find out what is their motivation. Is it just that they want to show in there saying, हामीले 3 वर्ष अघि startup-लाई help गरेको competition-बाट आएकोलाई we're working with them, right? Is it just a PR thing, or is it serious that they want to get into agriculture business, agriculture information business? What is their motivation? किन गर्दैछ त? Encel, why? Why do they want you? What is it that they're looking for? I think you've got to understand. And then that's what if it is something that they're looking at saying, CSR को रूपमा हेरौँ न, हामीले एग्रिकल्चरमा केही गरेको छ भने देखाउँ न भन्ने रूपमा हो भने you cannot expect too much with the alliance. It'll be there, but they're not fully committed. On the side, सानो रूपमा छ. If they're looking at the main thing, this can really go big. This can be really, really big. उनीहरुको प्रत्येक विज्ञापनमा तपाईको मेन्सन हुन्छ होला, एसएमएसमा सबैतिर हुन्छ, वेबसाइटमा अगाडि नै राखिदिन्छ. And if they've just signed it and कहीँ पनि मेन्सन नगर्ने हो भने nothing is going to come out. मेन्सन गर्नुपर्ने ठाउँहरुमा एन्सेल एप क्याम्पमा आएको 3 वर्ष अघिको स्टार्टअपलाई हामीले काम गर्दैछौँ है अहिले. Frankly speaking, honestly speaking, I also do that with my startups. I want to show continuity with our relationships. I said, I'm sorry, I got pre-accident, we're working with them. And so, not fully committed, but we are still working with them. And so, it's not my core, it's something very small that we are still working with them.
And this is what we say. We want to come into this business, but as you have been our grand winner, so you are closer than anyone else.
To find out, and that many times you have to read between the lines. And so one day the real could be different. And that's very difficult.
I think that can be seen through the behavior of the communicate and
Oh.
provided the business.
Body language, their communication techniques, होइन कतिको डेस्परेट छ होइन सो इमेल पठाइसकेपछि 4 दिनसम्म रेस्पोन्स आउँदैन भने होइन सो इट्स अल सोज होइन अब एभ्री इमेल 4 दिन लाग्छ भने समथिङ इज रङ अनि एकपटक ओके 4 दिन लाग्यो मेबी he was sick or out of office or things like that or in a conference or but if everything is it's not in their priority, they're just doing it on the side. And for people like Ansel, they are instantaneous with emails. And so the same day, it's ping pong, chowda email back and forth and so on. And so you become your own judge. And the gut feel I also get. I know what is it and all of that. But if you think that 6 months down the road you are getting into a suicide trip, don't sign it. I know. Or if you want to get into a suicide because of signing of this, it's your decision.
The challenge of, like you said, the challenge of adding value during the consortium or partnership is what we should really be prepared for. त्यसको लागि त हामी इन्फर्मेसन पनि क्वालिटी हामी सक्षम छौँ भनेर हाम्रो फुल रोस्टर अफ एक्सपर्टहरू हुनु पऱ्यो होइन एभाइलेबल अनि टेक्नोलोजीमा पनि युजर फ्रेन्डली एकदम एक्सेप्टेबल नै हामीले डेलिभर गर्न सकिरहेछौँ एनसेलले पनि त्यसलाई एक्सेप्ट गर्नु खालको भनेर हामीले त्यो देखाउन पनि सक्नु पऱ्यो
You guys should have a sustainable competitive advantage that cannot be replicated immediately. If you have something like that, you can go there and you can do things with them. But if you have something that can be easily replicated by someone else, you always have to look at those.
Or everything is replicatable. And if it costs money, there's nothing in this world now that another person cannot do. And so it's just a matter of cost, time, effort. But many times costs money. If my relationship and my chemistry with citizens is so good, no matter who else comes, I don't work with them. It's just that I feel good. Up to 10% Gatima Aula, 15% Gatima Aula, I just don't work with them. If my relationship is bad with them, next person I meet, hey, I'm working on this, can you do the same thing? So I'll try other people to get into that business. And I try to replace him. And because my relationship with him is not good. If my relationship is good, no matter what, I'll keep on working with him. Or just sugale bezna hours, I don't go with them. So it all, at the end, is all relationships. How much value that I can showcase. And so if I'm able to really add value, or just hours now, I'm not going to replace him.
People comes after the idea.
Oh, I know. So that relationship, I know. So you can name it as people. I know. So I think the value of that relationship, I think most people would still. I mean, I think you got the opportunity because of a relationship from 3-4 years with Ansel. Next organization को छैन. So अरूसँग त्यतिकै राम्रो idea त्यही technology भयो भने they'll say why work with ICT for Agri? Because they came to Ansel camp, they were the winner, consecutively slush company गइसकेका छ and all of that. They have a good branding. Let's work with them. We have a history with Ansel, so let's work with them. And so and you have to capitalize on that.
त्यसमा चाहिँ सरले भने जस्तो सुन यत्रो डल्लो हो नि एउटा मेटल छ भने जस्तो हुन्छ नि अलि
You have to add your value. And now they soon lie, then you have to make it a ring and say this is now an engagement ring. It is valid. It's no longer a goal. It's a relationship that you have, and it's an engagement ring. It's a marriage ring. It's a lifetime commitment. It's no longer just a piece of gold. And it is valid. Other dimension ma gayo. And if it is the crown of Queen Elizabeth, no money can replace that. And Gyanendra crown, no money can replace that. It's no longer just another topi or another gold or diamond. This value has so gone so many high because it's Gyanendra crown. Now, if that came into the market, मान्छेहरूले घर खेतै बेचेर पनि किन्छ. त्यसको value is different. It's not त्यसको सुनको value र त्यो डायमन्डको value त हुँदै छैन नि. होइन, so those are different. It's no longer. All right. So I think